So picture this, you wake up tomorrow, reach for your phone and nothing. No internet, no YouTube, no games, no messaging apps, not even a quick search to see what's going on. It's a wild thought, right? Our entire modern lives are so deeply intertwined with being online that the idea of a total internet blackout feels almost like science fiction. But it's a scenario that makes you think about all the digital systems we rely on and what would happen if that foundational layer just vanished, even temporarily. Now, let's take that thought a step further. In a world suddenly offline, what happens to all those digital currencies? The cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that everyone's been talking about, these are, by their very nature, internet native assets. They live on global distributed ledgers, constantly updated and verified by computers all over the world, all communicating online. So the big question, and it's a really interesting one, is could your Bitcoin or any crypto for that matter actually still work? Could you access it or even make a transaction if the internet as we know it went dark? It's a fascinating challenge and one that some incredibly smart people are already working on. Because, spoiler alert, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's more nuanced and it involves some seriously cool tech and innovative thinking. Today, we're diving deep into whether Bitcoin can survive and even thrive without the internet. We'll explore the ingenious solutions being developed to keep crypto going even when the global network isn't. So stick around, because this is pretty interesting stuff. Let's get into it. Alright, so first up in our exploration of internetless Bitcoin is a solution that sounds like it's straight out of a spy movie, space satellites. There's a company called Blockstream and they are doing something genuinely groundbreaking. They are literally beaming the Bitcoin blockchain data down to Earth using a network of actual satellites orbiting our planet. Think about that for a second. The entire history of Bitcoin transactions broadcast from space, covering vast swathes of the globe. This isn't just a concept, it's operational, and it provides a very real alternative for accessing blockchain data. If you have a special satellite dish, you can point it skywards and receive this continuous stream of Bitcoin data. This means that even if the internet in your specific town, city, or even your entire country goes down, you could still keep your Bitcoin node synchronized with the latest state of the network. You'd be getting the blocks directly from the satellite feed, bypassing traditional internet service providers entirely. Now here's a key distinction to make. This satellite system on its own is primarily for receiving Bitcoin data. It's a one-way broadcast from the satellite to your dish. So while you can download the blockchain and verify transactions, you can't just use the satellite link by itself to send your own Bitcoin transaction out to the network. That requires a two-way communication path. But just being able to receive the blockchain is a massive step towards resilience, ensuring that the ledger itself remains accessible and verifiable even in isolated conditions. It prevents a total information blackout for Bitcoin users. Blockstream's satellite service ensures that this crucial capability isn't entirely dependent on your local internet connection. As long as you have power and a clear view of the sky, you can stay connected to the pulse of the Bitcoin network. So how do you bridge that gap for sending transactions if the satellite is mostly for receiving? This is where human ingenuity really shines. People have figured out some really smart workarounds. So, moving on from satellites, the second really cool solution for keeping crypto alive without the mainstream internet is something called a mesh network. This is a concept that's been around for a while, but its application in the crypto space is particularly exciting. Imagine a scenario where your phone or other specialized devices can talk directly to each other, forming their own independent network without needing to connect to a central internet router or a cell tower. That's the fundamental idea behind a mesh network. It's device-to-device communication, creating a resilient, decentralized web of connectivity. Think of it like this: if you and a group of friends are spread out across a field and need to pass a message from one end to the other, but you can only shout as far as the person next to you. You'd tell your neighbor, they'd tell their neighbor, and so on until the message reaches its destination. Mesh networks operate on a similar principle. Your crypto transaction, or any data for that matter, can hop from one device to the next like a digital bucket brigade until it finds a path to where it needs to go. Each device in the network acts as a node, both receiving and relaying information. This hopping mechanism is what makes mesh networks so robust. If one device in the chain goes offline or out of range, the network can often intelligently reroute the data to other available devices. This self-healing capability is a huge advantage, especially in situations where traditional infrastructure is unreliable or completely absent. For your Bitcoin transaction, this means it could travel across several local devices within the mesh, even if none of them individually have direct internet access at that moment. The goal is to eventually reach a device in the mesh that does have an internet connection, however tenuous. Once your transaction data reaches that one gateway node with internet access, that node can then broadcast your transaction to the wider Bitcoin blockchain for processing and confirmation. So the mesh network acts as a local, resilient, first-mile solution, getting your data out of an internet dead zone and into the hands of someone or some device that can bridge it to the global network. It's a really clever way to extend connectivity beyond the reach of traditional ISPs, relying instead on the collective power of individual devices. Chapter 3: Building a Backup. Community-powered internet. Alright, so we've talked about satellites and device-to-device mesh networks. The third major solution for Bitcoin's survival without the traditional internet is, in a way, about building a new kind of internet, or at least a series of resilient, community-owned alternatives. This falls under the umbrella of something called DePIN, which stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Networks. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the core idea is incredibly powerful and very much in line with the ethos of crypto itself, decentralization. Instead of relying solely on a few massive telecommunication companies or internet service providers to build and control all the internet infrastructure, the cell towers, the fiber optic cables, the routers, DePIN projects empower regular people, communities, and small businesses to contribute to building out this infrastructure themselves. Think of it as a grassroots approach to internet connectivity. Neighbors can set up special hardware, like small radio antennas or Wi-Fi hotspots, that create mini networks accessible to everyone nearby who is part of that DePIN ecosystem. The really compelling part, and what drives adoption for many of these DePIN projects, is the incentive model. Participants who deploy these hardware devices and provide network coverage or other resources are often rewarded with cryptocurrency tokens native to that specific DePIN project. So you're not just contributing to a community good by expanding internet access or providing a backup network, you're also earning crypto for your efforts. This creates a powerful economic flywheel that encourages the growth and densification of these alternative networks. One of the most well-known examples in the DePIN space is a project called Helium. You might have seen their hotspots, small, unassuming boxes. Helium started by incentivizing people to deploy hotspots that create a decentralized wireless network for Internet of Things, IoT, devices using LoRaWAN technology. They've since expanded into 5G coverage as well. The scale is pretty impressive. The Helium network now boasts over 1 million hotspots deployed globally by individuals and small businesses, creating a vast user-owned network. Now imagine if the main internet grid goes down in a particular area. So, as we've seen, the idea of Bitcoin grinding to a halt without the internet isn't quite the open and shut case you might think. From satellites beaming down blockchain data to devices talking directly to each other in mesh networks and even community-built internet infrastructures, there are some seriously innovative solutions out there. It really highlights the resilience and adaptability that's at the core of the Bitcoin ethos. These aren't just theoretical concepts. They're being actively developed and deployed, pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible for a digital currency. Now, this whole discussion does make you think, doesn't it? If the internet disappeared tomorrow, even for a short while, what's the one thing you would miss the most? Is it staying connected with friends and family, access to information, or maybe even your livelihood if you work online? And on a broader scale, should we, as a society, be investing more in building out these kinds of backup internet systems, these resilient alternatives, to ensure we're not so reliant on a single, potentially fragile global network? It's a big question with a lot of different angles. I'm also curious to hear about your own experiences. Have you ever been caught in a significant internet blackout? What happened and how did you cope? Did it make you think differently about your digital dependencies? Drop your thoughts and stories in the comments below. I'm always interested to read them. And of course, if you found this dive into off-grid Bitcoin interesting and want to see more content exploring the fascinating world of crypto, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for our next video. Stay curious, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.